Welcome to On the Rise podcast. I'm Matt Ricker here today with Camille DeSantis, class of 1983, and she has a bachelor's in science, medical technology, and English. Camille, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Matt, for having me.
So, Camille, tell us a little bit about your Iona education. How would you categorize it, and what was your experience, and ultimately, where did it lead you?
Yeah, so I was very fortunate enough to receive a scholarship to come to Iona. And that was fantastic because I didn't have to worry about getting that second or third job to put myself through school. So I took my college education very seriously and did a heavy course load because I did the 5-year program in 4 years. So I sped up
Uh,
my on campus time to 3 years, with my last year being an internship at Lenox Hill Hospital.
okay.
But the bonds that I formed here are lifelong, and it was a great setting because it was intimate and small, and it helped me to really focus on my work and my science and my English. And I actually recently reconnected with one of our professors who's moved on to Cambridge in the UK.
Oh.
So that intimacy really paid off because you learn at a different level when you're not just a number, but you're actually a person. So it was a great experience.
Yeah, so, I used to be when I was an undergraduate student, I used to be a Gale guide, and when I would give tours to the families, that's one saying I would always say. I would say that here at Iona, you're an actual face and not a number, and, there's pros and cons to larger universities, smaller colleges, smaller universities, but, here at Iona, it's a tight-knit community, and you're able to actually get to know the professor that you have and form all these connections and ultimately hopefully lead to jobs and internships and much more.
Hmm.
So can you tell us a little bit about your career journey? I know you've been at Edelman for several years now. Can you talk about that and how you started with them?
Sure, absolutely. So, my career has had a what I would call to be an iterative career. It wasn't linear at all. So, when I graduated as a licensed medical technologist at the American Society of Clinical Pathology. So, I started my career at the Hospital for Special Surgery in New York City as a clinician. And that was a great career, and I did very well very quickly, but I missed the writing and the creative side of my English major. So I entered the world of pharmaceutical advertising in an editorial role, and I expressed an interest that I wanted to write. And I was given the good grace to be in an agency that supported young talent, and started to work in pharmaceutical advertising as a creative director. And over the years, very successfully launched many brands that you would probably know, pharmaceutical products, both ethical ones are RX as well as OTCs. And I had a mentor, and I think, we'll talk about mentorship, but I had a mentor who really encouraged me to go into more corporate work. And so I developed a specialty in corporate brand development. And that's when I went to Edelman the first time. In the early 2000s, I got a position at Edelman that was created for me to bring this skill set there. And it was during the course of my first tenure at Edelman that I rebranded the Ochsner Health System in Louisiana during the year of Hurricane Katrina. And it was a life-changing experience where I got to wear many hats and really be boots on the ground, with the people of Louisiana, so it was really life-changing for me, and it was at that time that the client actually encouraged me to consider doing my own business. I had a very unique way of looking at brands and analytics-based brand development, and, I took the big leap with the encouragement of Edelman, actually. They support entrepreneurs, and, I started a company with a business partner, called Guard Dog Brand Development, and we were very successful doing that kind of work. And then as that business moved on to its next phase, I was courted back to Edelman 7 years ago to, bring together their corporate and biotech, groups, as well as launch the brand development function. So, that's how I got back where I am.
Wow, that's great. So, you were actually living in New Orleans when during or after Katrina?
I was on the ground doing market research, the Friday before it hit, and then they had evacuated people. And it really, people think it was the storm. It really was the levees breaking that caused the biggest problem. But then I kept going back and forth there to help the clients. Major health system, they never closed. And so all of their agencies literally had to close, like their ad agencies and so forth. So we filled the gap for them, and so we were able to do all the things that they needed to help patients find their medical records, find their physicians, because everything had been dispersed. So it was a really amazing opportunity to use my skills in new ways
Sure.
and stretch myself and learn and grow as well, and made lifelong friendships there.
That's amazing. So you had mentioned mentorship. You had a mentor. So that leads me to my next question. What role has mentorship played in your career development, and how have you sought out mentors throughout your career journey?
Yeah, I can't talk about mentors enough, because I think at any one point in one's career, you will find different mentors depending on what stage of life you're in. And I was always very fortunate to be around very generous leaders who spent a lot of their time, with me, and I learned from them, and, one of them has passed away, and, he really sparked this whole brand thing in my mind, and so I had John Hedquist, may he rest in peace. I had some others as well, and, I also sought them out because you know when it's time to learn from somebody else, or you know when it's time when you need a little extra encouragement, or support as you're taking on new challenges and a sounding board. So I encourage those around me to seek mentors out, because you get what you put into it. It's not enough to say, I have a mentor. You need to build that relationship. And the value that comes from it is immense.
That's great. So in terms of your uh, experience in the workforce, what are some common misconceptions people have about career advancement, and how can they overcome these misconceptions?
Yeah, it's interesting you asked that question. I think sometimes, particularly kids that are coming out of school, right? They think your career is linear. Like, I'm going to go from A to B all the way to Z, and it's going to go in a stepwise fashion, and everything is planned, and it's all going to be super great. It doesn't always work out that way, and more often than not, it's for all for the good. When you leave your life open to serendipity and curiosity and new things, you ultimately find that you become what you were meant to be, but it may not necessarily have arrived in a straight line. So I think being open to serendipity, being open and curious are the skill sets that allow someone to grow in their career in new and exciting ways they may have never considered.
That's great advice. So let's talk about the it factor. You've served in many positions and leadership roles throughout your career, with plenty of opportunities to lead many teams of people. Have you noticed over time there's a particular it factor that you think helps people stand out?
I think it depends on the environment one finds themselves in, but for me, I really think that the most it factor is curiosity, not getting what I would call stale in your career, always staying interested in what's going on around you, never settling for, "Gee, I know my craft and that's it."
Yeah.
And a good dose of humbleness. So, humble yet confident is the phrase I use. We can all learn from anybody else, and they don't have to be a leader in the company. They could be a colleague. They could be a new person that just got hired. Everybody has something to teach somebody else, and I think that stance to me is the it factor, to be open to that.
That's great. So as you know, we it's been 5 years since the COVID-19 pandemic. How has your field changed, and what sorts of things did you have to do to adjust in your role?
Yes, I think, well, with everyone who was working at the time, we all went remote, for quite some time, and actually, it was a positive benefit to remote, which was we found ourselves talking more like people to each other because we were sharing an experience, but more importantly, we got to work with people in other offices that we wouldn't have before because the concrete walls got broken down. So suddenly, you find yourself working with folks all over the network. I work for a global company. And so the idea of working with folks not only in the New York area, but across in Dallas and Chicago and San Francisco and all the way, Europe, everywhere,
Yeah.
that broadened my view on things. It allowed me to collaborate with new collaborators, which was wonderful. And I think in terms of the industry, because I'm in healthcare, I'm in a regulated industry, and during these last 5 years, the rise of misinformation and disinformation around science and medicine has become epidemic. And so I work with clients in those spaces to try to combat some of that. So that has been the biggest negative output of the COVID-19 pandemic.
So let's switch over to networking. We talked a little bit off air about LinkedIn and all sorts of networking strategies. What role does networking play in career advancement? And do you have any tips for effective networking?
Yeah, I think, as I mentioned to you when we were coming in here today, there were 2 soon-to-be graduates from Iona who reached out to me spontaneously, who found me on LinkedIn as a graduate, and were interested in the company I work for, and they were trying to start networking, and I really applauded those activities. First of all, it was very brave of them to do, but then also the idea of building a network starts right from the very beginning. And I think the misconception about networking is you collect a group of names, let's say on your LinkedIn, and you only reach out to them when you're having a problem, or you only reach out to them when you need a job, for example. I don't view network that way. I think network is tapping into people for an opinion on something, or sharing your opinion, or offering your time to somebody else so that they're genuine relationships. And yeah, if sometime you need something, then they'll be there for you and you'll be there for them. But it's an organic, it's like tilling a garden. Just doesn't sit there when the sun is out. You have to be there through all seasons of what that means.
Yeah, that's great advice there. And I mean, I always tell my students that never hesitate to just send that message, like, even if it's just like, "Hi, my name is Matt. I'm a student here at Iona. I noticed you went to Iona," or even if they didn't go to Iona, I notice you have a certain title at XYZ company, and I'd like to learn more about what you do, et cetera, and you never know what that may lead to.
That's exactly right. I'm a big fan of coffee. So, meet someone for coffee. Say, you know what? I want to learn more about that. How did you get where you got? What tip can you give me? Or I've just learned something cool I want to share with you. It takes effort, but what you get back is much more than what you put in.
Absolutely, and I mean, there's no harm in just asking. I mean, if the person says no, they say no, but hey, at the end of the day, at least you tried, right?
Right, and it may be no, not now. It may not be no forever. It may be, "Look, it's not a good time, but
Exactly.
can we talk in 3 months, or can we talk next week?"
Yeah,
Unless it's a hard no, which I rarely find to be the case, persistence pays off.
absolutely. So let's talk about Gales Go Further. This is your first semester mentoring. So, how is it going? We appreciate, that you are mentoring somebody, at this moment, so we thank you for that. But what has your experience been like with it?
Yeah, it's really terrific. I was looking to volunteer my time to the university more. And when I heard about the mentor program, I thought, oh, this seems like a good fit for me because I really embraced the idea of it. They did not have this program when I was here. And I think it's a wonderful thing, actually. And I was paired with someone who has similar interests and similar career aspirations that I had at the time. And I think it's really great because it's structured very well. There's a portal you can communicate through. You can meet live with your mentee. You're there 24/7 for them, which is how I like to operate. Whenever I'm needed, I know that she can reach me anytime. And it's a very supportive environment. So you never feel like you're alone in it. Even as a mentor, you can always reach out and say, hey, how's this going? Or what should I be doing in this situation? I think it's beneficial to both the mentor and the mentee. It's a great program.
Yeah, and for anybody listening who's an Iona student, faculty member, or an alum, there's a software called Gales Connect, which is the software that we use to pair the mentees and the mentors. But it is open to any of Iona students, faculty, staff, or alum. And you can create an account simply and, just input all your work experience, hobbies, and everything. And you can even sync your LinkedIn to the Gales Connect account, and you're able to network with all sorts of Iona Gales. So it's a really beneficial software, and I encourage everyone to sign up. And you can, if you just Google Iona University Gales Connect, click that, and you'll see the link to there. So, looking back, is there any advice that you wish that you had received earlier in your career that you would like to pass on to others aspiring for career success?
Oh, that's a great question. So much to say here. I think a couple of things. One, I encourage young people to know themselves because in your heart of heart, you know what you really want to do. And listen to that voice because your intuition does not steer you wrong. So that's the first thing. The second thing goes back to that idea of curiosity and being open to serendipity. Those who know me know that I'm really into musical theater and movies and things like that. And I remember this quote from The Sound of Music, which we've all probably seen a million times, where Julie Andrews says, when God closes the door, he opens the window. So that to me means, okay, you're going down the road, you've got your career plan, and then a monkey wrench gets thrown in there, and you think, oh, it's the end of the world. It's rarely the end of the world, if ever. So there's always a way. And so that persistence and, try not to let those things get you down. There's speed bumps in life. But reach out to people. You're not in this world alone. I think that's another piece. Like sometimes when things get tough, you think, oh, it's just me. And then you realize if you have a mentor, if you have colleagues, reach out to them. You'll realize that your experiences are probably shared with others, and then it becomes less of a burden when you talk about it. So I think staying open, staying connected to people, and just enjoying the ride.
That's great. So let's end with some content recommendations. Have there been any particular books, podcasts, or other content that you found helpful throughout your career that you'd like to recommend to our listeners?
Mm. Well, I'm in brand development. So a part of brand development is customer experience mapping and planning. And I had the good fortune to learn from what I think is one of the best in the business is a woman named Jean Bliss, who wrote many books. But the first book that I saw of hers that caught my attention was I Love You More Than My Dog. And it's a quick read, you can read it in a few hours, and if you're into, brand development and or building customer experiences that are spectacular, I would highly recommend it. It's a great read. Anything by Jean Bliss is a great read. And one of the most pivotal, books for me was also The Hero and the Outlaw. And it's about archetypal brand strategy, and how to use, archetypes in developing brands. So those 2 books were pretty pivotal for me, as well as one by Alina Wheeler, the late Alina Wheeler, which was Designing Brand Identity. If you're in brand, that should be stuck on your nightstand and refer to it every day. So those 3 books come to mind.
Well, Camille, thank you very much for joining us today. We sincerely appreciate it, and thank you again for all that you do for Iona and for the mentoring program. And we look forward to having you back on again in the future. So,
I'm very grateful to be here
yeah,
today. Thanks so much for having me.
thank you. And thank you all for listening to On the Rise podcast. I'm Matt Ricker. We'll see you next time. Take care.